You know, you look amazing this morning. Keisha, I was watching you. Take it in. Heck, even online looks beautiful this morning. There are so many blessings in this room, so many powerful demonstrations. I can't help but look at each and every expression, reflection of what we affirm when we're together and not see what sometimes we have a hard time believing in for ourselves, right? That's why we're here. That's why we're connected. That's why we're tuning in. Is to be able to be reminded in the presence of others while we see each other, we see miracles in action. Friday night, the community gathered under the umbrella of the NAACP to honor our own Reverend Glenn. He received the Presidential Meritorious Award. Now, you can bring to your mind exactly why he received that award. And the strength, the integrity, the clarity that stood there at the podium in the expression of Leah. To be able to do that, to lean into that, to be able to honor Glenn. Powerful. Leah and I talked this week, so I need to, if you consider yourself a member of LU, the Ladies of Unity, whether you're online or you're here with us, she's got a message for all of you. November 2nd at the community center. She expects to see all of you there. There's a great work to be done in November and December. You know, on September 15th, she made her way to the center in Pontiac with all that you had collected for the children going back to school. She delivered that on the 15th of September. So right after service on November 2nd, we'll get in our car, we'll make our way over to the community center, and I hear there might be some dancing. There might be a tear or two. But there will be a focus, a vision on what's going to happen in November and in December. So Leah wants you to know that. In fact, I think it goes beyond wanting you to know that. She needs you to know that. Sheldon and I were talking about a service that had been held some time ago about the power of small groups, the power of community, of connecting. And I said, I think you've been tapping my phone. You've been in my emails, my text messages, and in our conversation for this morning. Because Leah's story, your story, is really the invitation that Sheldon was talking about this morning, for us to connect with each other. And we don't connect because we're looking for that next date. Just kidding, maybe some of you are. But really why we're connecting, is to be reminded about the truth of who we are. And it's easier to remind ourselves of that when we see it in others. Because it's impossible, if we can be in a room like this, connected in a community like this, to see it in everyone else and continue to forget that truth about ourselves. So I said last Sunday, at the beginning of every service, we should get ready because it will be this way through the end of December. Right? What did I say? Come on now. I got one leader. Glenn's like, come on, we do this every Sunday. We affirm the truth of who we are. I know you weren't getting it. John Richardson, where are you? John Richardson, you served on this board as the treasurer of this board and in this community. You served your wife, Karen. You cared for her. You walked back in and you said, I'm back. But you were on a great mission of love of caring day in and day out, of lifting Karen, celebrating Karen. So we wrap our arms around you this morning. We lift you. So with this affirmation, I hope that you can take it into your heart, John, because we love you beyond measure. So in the spirit that John needs it, let us share this affirmation together, shall we? I am divinely wired for a purpose and power. The Spirit of God flows through me, igniting bold inspiration and loving action. As I serve others in truth and compassion, I become a living expression of faith in motion. I am guided, grounded, and gloriously inspired right here, right now, and that's the way it really is. We love you, John. You all can be seated. This issue of being of service, I thought it was, John, I didn't know you were coming today, did I? You didn't call me. Boom, you walked in. And the energy that's going on in our community right now, which is actually an amplifying energy, it is not a detraction, it's not a distraction, it is not destructive. Cheryl, how'd you get here this morning? Andrew, would you stand? Andrew's also served on the board in previous iterations of our community, but he owns and is the owner of a first class, best in class, private car company. And once a month, he makes sure that Cheryl can make it here. And today's your day to be here in person, thanks to Andrew. I point these out because this is the power of coming together. This is the power of community. By the way, I would suggest that this energy needs to be in every seat of power, in every capital, in every council, in every place on this planet. This is the energy that we need. So don't fall for the trap of your Facebook posts and your friends who decide to tell you differently. The power is in exactly what you're doing here. Caring. Caring. And not just giving it lip service, but showing up. Showing up. Offering. Andrew, I didn't ask you to drive Cheryl, did I? You offered. If there's anybody in our community who I can give that ride to on a single Sunday, it's what I can give. Do you know somebody? We gave you Cheryl. But we had to ask. We had to offer. We had to receive. That is the power in community. And I would suggest to you, in this community, when we do this, no matter where we are, if we're tuned in somewhere else, we're not in this room right now, wherever we are, when we choose to do this, we change the world, and that's not just a bumper sticker. We really do. It's the invitation. It's the hard work. It's really easy to be a Facebook warrior. It's really easy. And by the way, if I don't know about you, if you notice some of those Facebook warriors, we need to pray for them. Because what is coming through those keys is the opposite of what we need. And I don't care who you are. I really don't. When what flows through is absent love with an excuse, it is still absent love. Leah McIntosh could be really mad at God right now. John Richardson could be really mad at God right now. There isn't a person in this room who couldn't choose to be mad at God right now. We will have missed the entire message, the invitation of being in this space called life. So that's why we're gathered together, is to be able to figure out how to navigate this thing. Who got a manual when you arrived? I didn't. Not to be a parent, not to be a husband. I mean, the only manual you get is that HR manual that tells you how you get fired. And even that's not clear sometimes. There's a great scripture. It speaks to this. Galatians 5, verses 13 through 15. It is absolutely clear that God has called you to a free life. Reverend Wilma, did we use the word free? Did we even talk about what you were going to pray us in with? Not one thing. Not one call. Daisy, you sent me a text, but did we talk about what today was going to be about? No. It is absolutely clear that God has called you to a free life. Use your freedom to serve one another in love. That's how freedom grows. For everything we know about God's word is summed up in a single sentence. Love others as you love yourself. That's why John and Andrew, Leah, all of us in this community are so powerful. Because our individual demonstration, our own sharing, calls each of us higher. I don't know about you, but sometimes I need to be called higher multiple times in a week. There are times in an hour. But certainly in this experience of life, we've got to be called higher. We do it through each other. This week, I don't know, I don't want you to think I'm doing a new thing and trying to be trendy. I have tennis shoes on in my suit. And I'm getting really good feedback, Darrell, so if we can do something with that, that'd be great. The boot's gone. So I'm glad the boot's gone. I had to get a new podiatrist who'd help me out, and the boot's gone. So I'm happy for that. Getting dressed this morning, though, well, let's get back to the doctor's appointment. The doctor's appointment was, we judge our patients by what they do, not what they say. I had to sit up in my chair. Like, he's certainly talking to somebody else. I'm the only one in the room, but we judge our patients not by what they say, but by what they do. And he took my boot, and he said, this is doing you no good, because you haven't listened. Same to you. See, the new boot that I was in had a heel, if you will, in the middle of the boot. My foot was supposed to put all of the pressure on the middle of my foot. But I decided I wanted to learn how to walk in that boot as fast as I could, which meant that not only was I not only keeping the pressure on the middle of my heel, it was also right on the top of the toe, because I would roll that foot and walk as fast as I could. The tool I had been given was not being used fully the right way. Now, he was a forgiving doctor. He extended my boot wear until this morning. I said, oh, how timely. And he said, by the way, how come you don't have your new shoes? I'm like, because I'm still in a boot. That's no excuse. You could have gone and gotten them. Oof. I invited him to come to a service one Sunday. So I left the office and went and bought new gym shoes. By the way, I had been wearing a full size, too small my entire adult life. I thought I was an 11 and a half, because I'd always been an 11 and a half dress shoe, 12 gym shoe. I'm a 12 and a half gym shoe. And I wonder why my feet are giving me a problem. My point about sharing this with you is, have you ever just done what you knew to do and then wondered why it didn't work? Have you ever been given the tools, the principles, a key, a message, and it could have been so powerful that it was a knock on your hood. It shook you awake. And yet you, like me, continue to do what I continue to do. The doctor's demonstration with that was the invitation was still there to do the right thing, to go get the shoe, to walk properly. And by the way, he said, you walk too fast anyway, so slow down. Linda Purrier, my whole life, the message to me has been to slow down. Right? So I don't know what doctor you're seeing. I don't know what prescription you've been given. I don't know what message you have heard, but my point today isn't to beat you up for staying in a shoe size, one size too small. My purpose today is to remind all of us that we can just step forward. Do it. Have faith. To give ourselves grace. There's somebody in this room who's been trying to give up alcohol or more for some time. There's been plenty of moments, coming to Jesus moments. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I just ask you and invite you to step forward. By the way, I'm not calling you out right now. That's not what I'm saying. Talk about in your own life. Step forward. Do it. To believe in yourself. To not play small. Thich Nhat Hanh is a powerful Buddhist monk. If you're not familiar with his work, you should be. You could be. I would invite you to immerse yourself in the writings and the teachings. A powerful way to look at the sweetness of life, the principles of life that are there. He talks about karma, and I love how he talks about karma because my growing up, the association with karma was almost a curse. Ruth, karma's coming back to get you after what you've done, Ruth. Have you been there before? Have you ever felt that way? Like karma's going to get you. Karma is present in every action. Every action. Karma and action are synonymous with each other. Karma is positive, it's negative, it is. The ripple effects of our actions change the world. That's what I was trying to get across earlier. How we are with each other in this community can change capitals around the world, and maybe even capitals in our country, in our communities. Action. One of Reverend Glenn's messages all the time, and when we would meet on Tuesdays to talk about our community, was his desire to see action. Action. How many of you got the verbal beatdown from Reverend Glenn about you need to take action? Throw your hands up. Look around this room. How many people did he call out? Just act. But in that action, we have to understand there is a flow that comes from that action. And by the way, inaction is a choice, and therefore an action. So if we choose to do nothing, there is a flow from that comes as well. Everything that we do, every thought, everything that we choose to do, how we choose to be, our own life is the instrument through which we experiment with truth. Marguerite Hunter, Julius, will you tap her on the shoulder? Marguerite, will you stand, please? Brandon, I'm going to give these to you to deliver to Marguerite. Today is Marguerite's 95th birthday. If you've had the opportunity to talk to Marguerite, you've had the blessing of being able to hear the sweetness and strength of spirit. Marguerite has not had the easiest walk in life. Right, Marguerite? But Marguerite has had one of the deepest experiences offered on this planet. You've chosen to be wise in the face of every obstacle. You've surrendered at every turn and never, ever were weaker for it. In your 95th year, we celebrate you standing strong. We are with you, we love you, and we bless you. Thank you. She walked in today, and I went up and said, "Happy birthday." She said, "How do you know it's my birthday?" Oh, Darylyn Brown, who loves on her so much. Where's Darylyn at? There she is. Darylyn put a little word in my ear this week. And she said, "Marguerite's coming, and it's her 95th birthday." What we all just experienced doesn't happen if Darylyn doesn't do what she just did. This isn't with an absence of evidence that when we lean in and love and believe in each other, miracles happen. Love flows. Darylyn cared enough for Marguerite, has. And all of us together have connected and make a commitment to each other in this community. Darylyn's on the Sunday night prayer call. Almost every Sunday, Darylyn. Almost every Sunday with Reverend Wilma and people from around this country praying about the most important things that are going on in their life. Darylyn's got one of those hearts that has surrendered into service. Last Sunday, I talked about being an angel of hope. You're probably all familiar with Mama Shu in Highland Park. How many of you have never heard of Mama Shu before? Raise your hand. Never heard. Well, you've got some homework. Yeah. Because you have an angel in Highland Park. Somebody who has breathed into a community with a vision that at every turn she was told, no, impossible, never. And in Highland Park, in one of the poorest, most challenged areas in our region, she has breathed oxygen into the community. She has created hope because of who she is. Not everybody here can be Mama Shu. By the way, the theme isn't about shoes today, but we can't all be that because there's one. There's one. And there's one you. And what is yours to do? When you're in a community and the fact that almost half of you knew who Mama Shu was tells me that you are looking to be connected with people who are doing that type of thing. The fact that you're here tells me that you're wanting to be connected with others who are thinking the same way, to be wired as a community, to be connected so that energy can flow. Part of the biggest challenges at any stage in our life, that's why the suicide rates among teens are the highest they have been, is they're not connected. Oh my gosh, more connected than ever before. I mean, you think this isn't, that you feel like you're not connected now? Go back 300 years. See how connected you feel then. Be a woman of color 400 years ago. See how disconnected that feels. The issue isn't our ability to communicate with each other. The issue is, do our hearts connect? Does the energy get wired together? Does it serve us? That's what the opportunity, the invitation for all of us is, to be these angels of hope, to believe, to be inspired. Donnie Wilson. I have watched Donnie over the years in our community and in the community follow his path. He can go to the doctor's office and see his dad he hadn't seen in years before when they call Donald Wilson, and two men stand up looking at each other. Do you remember him sharing that story with you? Donnie, you can make your way. Do you remember that? Mr. Wilson. Excuse me? And then to be on a major street, walking by a cafe, being in a cafe, and seeing this person staring at you back, and to realize that it's the sister you haven't seen in decades. Do you remember that story shared with us? So part of Donnie's journey has been to want to be an author. And on October 12th, 2025, he is releasing his book, Motor City Magic. So, here you are.
Here I am.
An author. See, we have a lot of people who say they're going to write books in this community, but more and more we're getting authors because by the way, to be an author, you have to have one of these things. You got to be able to put your hands on it or go to Amazon and download it, and then you're an author. You're not an author if you're not got something. How many of you in this room are wannabe authors? Raise your hand. How many of you, keep your hands up, keep them up high. How many of you are wannabe authors, you online too, wannabe authors, but don't have a book? Keep your hand up. Okay, so in 2026, I'd love to have all of you put your hands down and be able to say, I am an author. We will have a Sunday to celebrate your words, your message, your demonstration in this community. Donnie, how is it that you're here?
Well, I had a vision and a dream. I'm a filmmaker by trade, so telling stories has always been my thing. Detroit has always been my thing, and writing. My last class in college was screenwriting. Favorite class, last class. So I've been a screenwriter ever since. And this story I knew was going to be so big and so grand, I needed to put it into something that could really capture everything. So that's how this book came about in so many words. That's the short of it.
So how long have you been working on this book?
2.5, 3 years.
So what was the biggest challenge?
The biggest challenge, besides time, was putting the words on the page, because this book is Motor City Magic. It takes place in Detroit, and Detroit has always been a huge, huge part of who I am, part of who my family is. And at one point, I wanted to leave Detroit because a lot of you know my story. Suffered a lot of loss over the past 15 years. 2011, lost my aunt, smartest woman alive. 5 months later, lost my mom. A month later, lost my grandma. A year later, lost my uncle. A year later, lost another uncle. Skip a year, lost my aunt. And 3 years later, lost another uncle. And that's pretty much over a decade of loss. So just writing about Detroit, being in Detroit, all the memories I've had from Detroit, good and bad, it was tough. But getting the words out on paper was actually kind of therapeutic.
So tell us what this book means to you. We know that it's passion, it's a story that you've had within you, but what does the demonstration of this mean to you?
The demonstration of Motor City Magic means that magic is real. We're not just this flesh and blood. This isn't us. There's so much more. And writing this book wasn't just for me. The question I've always had and the thing I've always wanted to do, especially the past decade, is answering the question and making sure that I made people proud.
Yeah.
So you and I had a conversation. Sometimes conversations can be challenging, right? So you ask the question, you don't get the answer. So I have teenagers. Challenging conversations are familiar with me right now. So I asked Donnie, I'm like, how many books would you like to sell? Oh, 1 or 2. He didn't say that. But oh my God, I was pulling teeth. I said, how many books? Because where are you going to be this afternoon?
I'm going to be at Bamboo right here in Royal Oak doing a signing at
What time?
2 to 4 p.m.
Yeah. Now, I understand that there's a special opportunity for your closest friends to connect with you at that table over there after service, right?
That's right, yeah.
So for the day, what's your goal? How many books are you wanting to sell?
For the day, whole day, I want to sell 100 books.
You believe that for him? Why does that matter? Why is 100, why does selling the book, why does having a response that affirms you matter?
It matters to me because it's not about selling the book, it's about sharing the story. And I know that I've made my mom and everybody else proud.
Well, you've made us proud. I'm going to hold on to this one. I don't have my pen up here, but I understand that if I buy this from you today, you'll sign it?
I will.
All right. We love you. Appreciate
Love you
you.
guys too.
And we're looking for book number 2.
And
If you want to be part of something bigger than yourself, be here. Be in this community. Because when we're here together, we are part of supporting somebody else experiencing life. We didn't just show up when he had a book. I mentioned, and I'll mention it later in the service, that Kem's going to be here on the 26th, right? We've made the decision not to publicly promote that, because I want you to bring your friends. And if we publicly promote it, we're going to be at the end of the line going, who are all these people? So if each of you bring one, we don't have enough seats. So you, Carl, you might have to double up and have somebody sit with you, and that's okay. But we were with Kem before Kem was at the Grammys, before Kem was at the Tonight Show. We were with Kem when Kem needed us most. Right, Daisy Love? Anicia called me this week. She has 2 beautiful children, adult children now, Tiffany and Julian. And she called me at the beginning of the week, and Julian was missing in Los Angeles. She couldn't find him. She had last heard from him when he was pinged and at the hospital in Los Angeles on Friday night. By the way, when Anicia was here last Sunday, Anicia knew that she didn't know where he was since Friday, and yet she was here serving. Here serving. And she reached out to the core of this community asking for prayer, right, Ruth? Right, Linda? Wanting to know where her son was. Wanting to know that he was okay. You understand that mother's prayer? Do you feel that? Now, Anicia has taken us on a few journeys. You know, she was diagnosed and we gasped, and she said, never gasp in this community again for me. And she taught us that. And Julian was missing. I have a good friend of mine I grew up with in the Youth of Unity who is the county clerk in LA, Los Angeles County Clerk, Dean Logan. Los Angeles County is the largest county in the entire country. And I asked Dean to pray, to believe for Anicia. Somebody with boots on the ground, if you get my point. Somebody who was there. I asked Anicia, do you want to raise all the flags? Do you want me to activate Dean? And she said, no, I want to sit with this. And she had called the hospitals, and there was no Julian. She had called the hospitals and looked for a John Doe, and there was no John Doe. She couldn't raise him. And then she found him. at the very hospital she had reached out to at the beginning, looking for Julian and looking for a John Doe, at Cedars-Sinai Hospital in Los Angeles. And he talked to her. Now, he had been involved. He had no idea why he was in the hospital. There were two people who delivered him to the hospital. But he had no idea what had happened. We've learned now that he was involved in a car accident where he was hit. He wasn't in a car, he was hit. And two people got him to the hospital. And he had amnesia. He couldn't remember much of anything. And Anicia left the night that she received his call. I was on the phone with her, we were talking, and I said, "When do you leave?" And I could hear the question. Do I not? The only thing I said to Anicia was, at this point in your story, you have no regrets. You have no regrets right now. You've got to go. Because if he walks out of the hospital and you don't hear from him again, you will heal from that, but it will take a lot of work. You will heal from it, but it will take a lot of work. So she made her way, flew to Los Angeles that night, overnight. And for those of you who are friends with her online, you see what she shared. She shared that he has had a miraculous recovery. He is moving forward faster than could have been imagined. Broken bones, a head injury. But what I want you to pay attention to is what she has asked for. We now ask for your continued prayers as we take the next important step, admission into one of California's world-class trauma rehabilitation centers. Can you see that in your mind's eye? Can you be so strong that you can see that for Anicia and for Julian and Tiffany? Can you see that? It's your commitment to seeing it that she needs to travel along, that she needs to be able to rest into. Because for Mom, she's asking for that prayer because she needs you to hold that truth for her. Your role, your energy, your space in the body that you are in right now matters to each and every person. And in this case, right now, it's Anicia. So do you commit to seeing that for them? In every moment, believing that, seeing it, being willing to celebrate it, knowing that no matter what, good is breaking out in this experience. How many of you came here this morning with a prayer on your heart? Raise your hand. I'm not going to call you out. Don't worry. Maybe Shirley, but no. Put those hands up again. People who sit in the back row. This is why I always sit in the back row. Because you can see everything. In your front row, you think, well, I might be the only person because I can't see. But I can tell all of you in the front row, there are a lot of hands that came with prayers this morning. A lot of prayers. Anicia's is one that we can put on a slide and we can all relate to because we all know Anicia, but we all know you too. We believe in you too. We're here for you too. And we have to have that strength. Our challenge in this human journey is that we are constantly looking elsewhere for our supply and for our answer. It's the truth about everything. It's really true about money. We pray for money to come our way, for us to have abundance, to be prosperous, and it is always separate from ourselves, and it doesn't change until we realize that it is within us. It isn't something that you get gifted, it is something that you are. Healing is not something that some white-bearded God on a cloud decides in a fleeting moment that Barb gets her prayer answered. Because that story separates all of us from the absolute truth of who we are. So our job isn't easy, by the way. That's the hard part of this, right? Well, couldn't you just made it a little easier? Put it on one page. Maybe on an audio file so I could play it every single morning when I get up. This is what I'm supposed to do. Remind me because I forget. We would love for this experience, this human experience, to be different, to be easier. I would suggest to you that it is rich and it is easy when we do what we know to be true for each other. If we can look at Steve and know that within him, healing is occurring. Have you needed healing in your life, Steve? Have you? Physical healing? Emotional healing? He has shared with us the reason why you walk for the Heart Association is because of your own personal experience with stroke, correct? It's something that you heal through each day. Every day. You and I both have AFib. We've talked about this. But we are not victims of it. It's an invitation for us to be able to lean into our experience and to experience it fully. It isn't easy. It isn't what we would have signed up for, but it is powerful. It is. So the question to all of us is, what is it that we want? How do we want it to be? What is within us? Not some wishing well. Glenn said in one of his last ministries and sermons with us, was that what he loved about this community is that we are a teaching ministry. A teaching ministry means that it meets all of us where we're at. I promise I'll be kind. If you're here for the first time, would you raise your hand? Ah, we got one. Don't worry, I'm going to be nice. Don't worry. I promise. Somebody who walked in here for the first time today. First time. Do you remember your first time? The first time walking into a teaching ministry that said, this ministry meets you where you're at. And by the way, that is good. No matter what you've been taught, no matter what you have learned. This kid grew up in a Jehovah's Witness. 144,000 going to heaven. The rest of us may not make it. A grandmother who had been a Jehovah's Witness had saved her life. My dad had a different dad than his brother. But you know what they had in common? Their dads were both drummers. You understand my point? She loved drummers. The band would come through, and the drummer would come and visit. Her life was a mess. And she found for her in that moment somebody who knocked on the door and said, hey, there's a different way. It wasn't my way. It wasn't my way. I remember coming into this community for the first time like you do. And maybe for the first time in my life, understanding that I had a personal relationship with the universe and with God that was on my side. That I was born into this opportunity and it was all good. Will didn't show up here as a broken man, this big when he arrived, steeped in sin, never to grow beyond that truth. Kind of a old white man's way of controlling society, don't you think? Let alone we didn't say anything about women. Or if you were gay. Or whatever it was that separated you from the judgment that said you aren't part of this. So it's time for us to lay that down, to let it go. It doesn't serve us. We learned it, we picked up things along the way, and it's okay to let it go. To let it go. Because in front of us is the invitation. There's going to be a point in time where we look back and say, oh, if I had only known that my shoes were too small. I would have changed. So what is it that's on your heart this morning? What is it that you want? We know what we want for Anicia, don't we? For Julian. We can believe it. We know it. There is nothing within my being, not a cell, that will not stand in the truth that where Julian is, healing is. Where Anicia is, healing is. So let's affirm this together as we prepare for our opportunity to pray. But let's rise. Let's affirm this truth. Let's take this. Take it deep within our hearts. Mean it like we've never meant it before. That's why I got a new pair of shoes. I'm not going back to that doctor's office with an excuse. You kidding me? Oh, no way. Yeah, I know. I'm walking too fast. I heard you, Michael. Together. I am divinely wired for purpose, guided by spirit, and inspired to serve. I say yes to the call of love, yes to the work of peace, yes to the joy of service. The law of love moves through every cell of my being. I am a sacred instrument of healing, hope, and harmony. Each step I take is led by light. Each word I speak is shaped by truth. I live not for myself alone, but for the uplift of all. This day I walk in freedom, faith, fearless, and fired up by divine inspiration. And so it is. Amen. That's the heart of it, Renaissance Unity. That is the heart of it.